In our last video, we asked you to submit your questions, and we got a lot of questions back. We're not going to be able to answer all of them, but I'm going to do my best to answer all the questions related to gearing today. If you have more questions related to gearing, please submit them in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them in the future. Here's a general gearing question. How many gears is enough? I think this is a really good question, and a very big question too, especially when it comes to internally geared hubs, because there's a lot of options, and the more gears you have, the more expensive the bike is a lot of the time. And Prioirty has bikes ranging from 3-speed, 7-speed, 8-speed, 11-speed, 12-speed Pinion. So, there's definitely quite the hierarchy of number of gear options there. So I think what it comes down to is where are you riding, how far are you riding, how hilly are your rides, and what kind of riding experience do you want to have? And I think you might be surprised, and I think most people would be surprised, that you can get away with fewer gears than you think for a lot of rides. And a 3-speed hub offers a level of versatility that allows you to get around town, do shorter rides, and get up most moderate climbs with some effort. But that's part of the trade-off. The fewer gears you have, you might have to work a little bit more in certain situations, but the trade-off is simplicity, lighter weight, and less to worry about. But riders certainly with hillier rides, looking to ride further, or looking to get a more efficient riding experience will benefit from having more gears. Next question. How long do Pinion gearboxes last, and do you sell them when the time comes to replace them? Well, Pinion gearboxes are designed to last more than 100,000 kilometers. That's 60,000 miles. And that's a very long time for most riders. Pinion offers a factory overhaul service for really high mileage gearboxes. I assume that would be somewhere around half of 60,000 miles. And that includes an inspection, replacing the seals and the main bearing. And at the time of this recording, it's about 200 euros. And after doing that, you get an additional 2-year warranty after the service. So we don't stock replacements. And I think that's because Pinion gearboxes can far exceed the life of most bicycles, and especially with proper care. But if you want to purchase a replacement, you can. VPL, Vapor Propulsion Laboratories, is Pinion's official North American distribution partner and offers a replacement C112 gearbox at the time of this recording for about $1,500. To put things in perspective, in my 5 years here at Prioirty, I've never had to replace a gearbox for wear. And if we look at somebody like Ryan Van Duzer, if you're familiar with him, he's put many, many thousands of miles on Pinion gearboxes and never even had to do their service. So I think you could be pretty confident in the longevity of Pinion gearboxes and that they won't need to be replaced in any reasonable amount of mileage. So I challenge you to hit that 60,000 mile mark on your Pinion gearbox. Here's another Pinion question. The pedal cadence on your 600 internal gearbox, will it be easier, harder, or the same as on an 18-speed? So when somebody says 18-speed, I assume they mean a 2x9 gearing system, which is a little bit more common for gravel bikes and some mountain bikes. So one of the things that make the 600 really special is its 600% gear range Pinion gearbox. And that gives it the ability to have a really low lowest gear and still a pretty high highest gear for a really versatile gear range. When we talk about cadence, we talk about matching your pedaling speed to the amount of effort you want to put out for a given gradient. So on a really steep hill, you want to have a low lowest gear to have a comfortable and powerful enough cadence to get up that hill. With a Pinion gearbox on a 600, you're able to get an extremely low gear, 17 gear inches to be exact. To achieve a 17 gear inch number on a 2x9, you need a really small low sprocket in the front and a really large big cog on your cassette in the back, specifically a 2234, which is not super common. And if you go with the gearing like that and try and use as wide a range of cassette in the back and a large sprocket in the front, it would still be hard to achieve the high end of gear range that you get using the Pinion gearbox. Most 9-speed cassettes give you about a 454% gear range, So you'd end up with a highest gear that's significantly lower than what you would get using a Pinion gearbox. So the real advantage here with the 600 and the Pinion gearbox is you get the really low lows to get that cadence for climbs, and still very usable high gears to get the correct cadence you need for going faster. Next question. Can the internal gearing be used on an E-Coast cruiser? And this is referring to our beach cruiser, the E-Coast, which ships as a single speed. And the E-Coast is designed around a rear hub motor, and it uses a traditional bottom bracket shell, which means that there isn't really a place to put an internally geared hub or a gearbox. So the bike is set as a single speed. That being said, we find that the 500-watt motor is plenty powerful enough to supplement riders' pedaling power to get up most hills that you'll find in a coastal environment. If you live in a really hilly area, we suggest looking at the Prioirty Current or the E-Classic Plus that already come with internal gearing to allow you to get up steeper hills. Here's a general gearing question. How weatherproof are hubs? But first, what is a hub? A hub is the center of the wheel. On front wheels, that is just something that contains the bearings and holds the spokes that connect to the rim of the wheel and allows the wheel to spin around, and often has a mount for a disc brake. For the rear of the bike, on many of our bikes, they also house the gearing for the bike, or the transmission. So this question, I think, is specifically relevant to internally geared hubs, but I'm going to address it across all hubs. So basically, all hubs are fine and pretty weatherproof in most riding conditions. They all have a seal, and the type of seal depends on the type of hub. All of our hubs are sealed from the elements in some form. Most front hubs and single-speed rear hubs that we use cartridge-style bearings, where the seal is actually part of the cartridge, and the cartridge is pressed into the hub. Many of our front hubs might also use a cage-style bearing, and in that case, the seal is a rubber seal that's held in place by the body of the hub itself. For both of those hubs, they also rely on some grease to promote the longevity of the bearing, keep the bearing smooth, but also the grease prevents water ingress or other elements from penetrating around the edge of the seal and the rim. So let's talk about the rear hub. We use various types of transmissions on our bikes, hubs from Shimano and Enviolo, and gearboxes from Pinion, which aren't a hub, but are a transmission. And they all use some form of rubber seal to keep out impurities, water, and any other element, I suppose. Shimano Nexus hubs use grease to lubricate the internals and keep the elements from penetrating through the seals. Shimano Alpine hubs and Pinion gearboxes use a special oil to perform the same function. Enviolo hubs use a specially designed oil that creates traction between the spherical internals of the hub and also keeps impurities from getting through the seals. The design of the seals and the use of these oils and greases in the hub, it's all very technical, and they're intended to prolong the life of the hub itself. But to boil it down, the hubs are basically waterproof in most conditions, as long as they're not submerged for a long time in water. We'd love to do more videos about gearing, so if you have questions about gearing options that will work best for you, or things about your situation that you need help navigating, please put your question in the comments and we'll be happy to address it. If you have any other questions about Prioirty bikes, gearing, or anything else related, please reach out. Our customer service team is available 7 days a week and we're happy to help. The contact information is on your screen.